School caterers have told the BBC that rising food prices are changing what they provide for children's lunches in England and Wales. Some firms are using cheaper imported meats and changing the fruit and vegetables that are on offer. Catering companies say the cost of basic groceries has increased by as much as 30%, and they're calling for the money for school dinners to be ring-fenced. Well, our education editor, Bramwell Jeffries, has this report.
Hello, good morning, Paul. There you go.
The early food delivery for the school lunch.
Oh, loads of potato todays.
Even the humble spud is more expensive than it used to be. And the roast dinner here is now gammon. This primary gets its food from caterers supplying 69 schools across Plymouth. But across England and Wales, caterers have told the BBC prices are going up, driving changes on school meal menus.
1, 2, 3, bam.
For Caterhead here in Plymouth, we've actually had to look very carefully at the meat that we buy. So we've taken beef off the menu, and we had been buying that from farms in Cornwall. We've replaced it with gammon. We've reduced the amount of chicken that we're using and replaced that with turkey. We're just having to balance the food cost on the plate to actually make it and continue for it to be quality but affordable.
This wholesaler down the road supplies the Plymouth school caterers.
On the price of fuel this week, have you seen the new prices coming in?
Yeah, it's gone up 8.5p a litre on this week.
Rising fuel costs are just one of their headaches. They've faced sudden shortages of some fruit and veg, and the war in Ukraine has made prices unpredictable.
Since January, anybody in this trade has never experienced what we've saw over the last few months. Luckily now things have leveled out on the produce side, due to the fact that it's a lot of it's local coming through, an English product. But yeah, certainly been a horrendous few months.
Everything in these crates is destined for local schools. Now, at the moment, prices are quite stable because we're into the British growing season. But the fear is that this autumn and winter could see further big price hikes. Yay! Let the show time begin.
For school catering teams, it's getting harder to make everything add up.
And 4 and 4 is 8. And 8 and 8 is 16. Wow!
Children might have to get used to more changes on their plate, even though most of them like familiar foods.
What do you like about the roast dinner best?
I like
You like the roast potatoes best? Is that your favourite bit?
I liked some of the vegetables and the gammon. It was really nice. And then for dessert, I had a pot of jelly.
I like the potatoes more.
Which is your favourite?
No, I did breakfast.
Use breakfast. Yeah. You don't like the roast dinner then, you do?
I do, but my favourite is probably
It's probably the breakfast. You have cleared your plate, Dylan. What do you like about school dinners?
I like the taste of the food and also the vegetables.
With half the children here getting free school meals, good food matters. Just losing beef off the menu has had an effect.
Sometimes it's not until you do something like that that you realise the impact. So, for example, some children stopped having roast dinner and we were saying, well, why is that? I really like the roast beef and Yorkshire pud. So that's really sad because with the roast meat comes a lot of offer around vegetables that they might not otherwise try.
The number of children who need free school meals has gone up. In England, more money has gone into meals for the very youngest, with the government giving 7p a child extra each day. A welcome increase, but one that could be overtaken by prices. Bramwell Jeffries, BBC News, Plymouth.
Let's talk more about this now with Sean Turner, who's Policy Officer at School Food Matters. How worried are you about this and what looks like a sort of diminution of quality because of the cost of living crisis, because of rising prices?
This issue's been going on for months now and has obviously been worsened by the cost of living crisis, by supply chain issues and by the war in Ukraine. But it's not a new issue. The funding for school food just hasn't risen with inflation, and this 7p increase that was spoken about then is just 3%. It doesn't anywhere near cover the rises due to inflation. And who's going to lose out ultimately? It's the children who rely on free school meals for their nutritional safety net.
Because I mean, we've heard that for some children, you know, the free school lunch they get is essentially the only decent meal of the day they will get.
Yeah, that's right. And recent work by Child Poverty Action Group now shows that of children who live in poverty in this country, 1 in 3 of them are not eligible for a free school meal. And that's because the government's threshold to get a free school meal in this country sits at a household income of £7,400 a year. So if your household has more than £7,400 a year income before benefits, you're considered too well off to get that free school meal. And that means there's approaching 1 million children now who are in poverty and can't access that vital nutritional support.
And presumably this could get worse because inflation, it doesn't look like it's going to level off or fall anytime soon.
Yes, so obviously inflation is not looking great, but also post-summer, as we see rising energy bills again, we see in the autumn potentially increases to fuel costs and energy bills for households. They're exactly the same for schools, and those caterers are going to have to foot that bill somehow. And without additional funding into the system, then unfortunately caterers are talking now about reducing portions and reducing the quality of the meals.
And there are always substitutes, but it was interesting hearing from that head teacher in the report there that, you know, substituting roast beef, for example, the effect of that is that the kids who quite like a roast lunch then don't get all the vegetables that goes with that.
Yes, and throughout the pandemic, the school food workforce across the country has been tireless, but their creativity in making substitutes like the one you mentioned can only get them so far when the pressures from the finances are really squeezing them so tightly.
So for you, the answer is just more help from the government, is that right?
Well, the best solution here, and this would be really killing 2 birds with 1 stone, would be to start by increasing the number of children who can access a free school meal. Not only would that address the issues of children living in poverty who need that nutrition, but also it would improve the economies of scale for the caterers. So if you have, you know, a half full restaurant, that's never going to be a viable business model. But if you get more children to that dining hall eating good, nutritious quality food, then it also means that bulk purchasing becomes more effective and the overheads become less per meal.
Yeah, but of course, all of that costs more money. I mean, it's more government money that the government would say they don't have.
Well, it's not for me to determine how the Treasury finds its money, but I think if you're going to start spending your money somewhere, then surely children's health is a good place.
All right. Sean Turner, very good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Sean Turner there, Policy Officer of School Food Matters.